Hey everyone, welcome back to another Humans of USC Chan video. Thank you all for stopping by. Basically what Humans of USC Chan is, it's like forum style conversation with people in the division, all on Zoom. We basically just hop on the call, I ask them questions, they answer them, share their experiences, tell their stories about how they discovered OT, for example, or what their favorite memories are, all of that kind of stuff. And today I actually invited the bachelor's to master's students from USC Chan to join us. I'm not a bachelor's to master's student myself, and so I think it'll be really nice to just hear their stories and get to know them. And yeah, I'll also leave timestamps in the description if you want to kind of click through, or it should actually be in the YouTube time bar thing that you can see the topics, but it's also in the description. And there's more information in the description, like links to the bachelor's to master's program on our USC Chan website. And yeah, so let's hop on the Zoom call.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for this video. I'm very excited to have all of you, and just thank you for sharing your time to come and join all of this. So I know you all are bachelor's to master's students, all from different years, and I just wanted to start off with an introduction. And so anyone can really hit it off. Introductions will just include your name, your hometown, and your class, like your year, graduating class.
I can go first. My name is Justin Chan. I grew up in Hacienda Heights, California, and I graduated with my bachelor's in 2020, and I will be graduating with my master's in 2021.
Hi everyone, my name is Sammy Osuna and I am from Yorba Linda, California, and I'll graduate with my bachelor's in 2023 and with my master's in 2024.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name's Anna. I'm from Buffalo Grove, Illinois. I'll be graduating with my bachelor's this year in 2021 and with my master's in 2022.
Hi everyone, my name's Jessie Tien. I'm from Walnut, California, and I graduated with my bachelor's in 2020, and then I'm graduating with my master's in 2021.
Hi everyone, my name is Nmachi Obiwuru, and I'm from Long Beach, California, and I'll be graduating with my bachelor's in 2023 and master's in 2024.
Hi everyone, my name is Leiyanne Roldan, and I'm from Monterey Park, California, and I'll be graduating with my bachelor's in 2022 and my master's in 2023.
Hi everyone, my name is Seth Mitchell. My hometown is Sylvania, Ohio, and I will be graduating with my bachelor's this spring 2021 and my master next spring in 2022.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam. My hometown is Arlington, Texas, and I'll be graduating with my master's in 2021, and I got my bachelor's in 2020.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for sharing. So we'll move on to the first question, which is kind of like our icebreaker question, which is, how did you decide to pursue OT so early on?
So I actually found out about OT through my younger cousin who has Down syndrome. She was born when I was in high school, and from there I kind of helped my aunt figure out some of the logistics about the therapies that she'd need. And so I went with her to her pediatric occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech. And growing up, I was an athlete, so I always wanted to be a physical therapist. But when I went with her to her therapy sessions and saw OT, I realized that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And here we are.
And my story is really similar to that. I had a family member who received OT when I was pretty young, like in 6th grade. And I just found it so fascinating that all these seemingly simple games would have all these purposes behind them. Like the OT would explain to me, oh, I'm actually working on crossing midline here. And she would explain all the different components that went into that. And I just thought that was so cool that you could build all these client factors through occupations that you enjoy doing or need to do already. So that's my story.
I found OT through research, actually. In high school, I kind of tried to figure out my career path and solidify it. And growing up, I always wanted to be a doctor. I kind of thought that was the only way I could help people in the health field until I started doing more research and finding out there were so many other professions in the health industry and allied health professions. So around junior year of high school, sophomore, junior year, I found OT and I found the program at USC and just started researching and finding out more information about it. And I fell in love with the field and the versatility within the field. There's so many things you can do with it. So it just really intrigued me. And then I ended up applying to USC.
I have actually a very similar story. I just, while applying to college, I wasn't too sure what I really wanted to go to. So I did my research, found OT. I really liked the creativity that you can go along with the profession, the versatility, and through USC learned about the lifestyle redesign program, and I fell in love with it. I've always been one who would try to take care of myself in the holistic way possible, like whether it be working out, like learning how to take care of my diet, just all lifestyle aspects. And I really thought that I can flourish in this profession, and I liked it.
3 times the charm, I guess. I also found OT through research. I had no prior experience with it, and I was heading into my senior year of high school planning on majoring in aeronautical engineering. So big pivot there. But I basically just looked on the College Board's website and looked through all 1,800 different of their majors that related to helping others, made a list of 20, did more research, narrowed it down to OT and speech and language pathology. And then I took some self-reflection, looked back on my life and my narrative slope, and found that the occupations I were engaged with really aligned more with OT. I took the chance and applied like 2 weeks before applications were due, and here we are.
I would say my story is actually really similar to Seth's. I think it's like so inspirational when I hear about other OT students, like, and how they encountered OT like very early on in high school, or maybe even earlier on in their lives. But for me, I actually didn't know I wanted to pursue OT until I was applying for USC as well. Both of my parents are nurses, so they inspired me to shoot for a healthcare career path ever since I was really young. And I kind of bounced between, being like a pharmacist, being a dentist, or being a nurse, like during high school. But when it came down to applications, I applied as a nursing major for all of my other colleges, except for USC, because they don't have an undergrad nursing program. And I just kind of asked my mom, like, what do you think I should major in? And she was like, you should pick OT. I feel like you'd like OT. And I was like, okay. So then I just did my research, like enough to kind of write up the application and get like a good grasp of, do I want to do this or not? Like, do you think it's kind of like a good idea for me to just apply for something that I have no idea about? But, I just kind of rolled with it, and I basically took her words of advice, gone with it. My parents have observed OTs while working with elderly patients, and they explained that the kind of rehabilitative work that they did. So that research kind of geared me to like have the confidence to actually apply.
Yeah, so for me, it was also like I found it in high school. It was the end of my sophomore year, and I really just kind of knew what I didn't want to major in. I knew I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a teacher, but I still like wanted to help people and kind of like get in that area. And at the same time, I started volunteering at this hippotherapy center where I live, which, if you don't know what that is, it's providing therapy to kids and adults through the use of horses. And so I went there and I watched OTs and PTs deliver their services. And I was just like shocked that there was something you could get paid for, just like hanging out with kids and horses. And then I really started to look more at what they do. I did a lot of research to kind of go with it. And I found that occupational therapy specifically was like exactly what encompassed everything I wanted to do.
So I think my story is kind of similar, like a combination of everybody's. So in high school, I volunteered with this outside organization within the context of like my local Chinese community, and it was with kids who were disabled. And it's like best buddies. So you partner with your buddy, but we call them like our angel, and you basically foster this relationship with them, and they mentor you and you mentor them. And it was through a relationship with one girl, her name is Carol, and seeing her grow and her teaching me a lot of things that I realized that I wanted to work in a profession that helped people in this way. And I always knew I wanted to work in healthcare, and like similar to other people here, like in pharmacy or maybe like orthopedic surgeon. And so I thought about it, but when it came down to it, I researched professions similar to that program, things that I could be involved in. And I realized that what I was doing at the organization was like a really rudimentary form of OT, like pediatrics OT or similar to that. And then I decided to apply to USC just because I love the campus, I love the program and all the things that encompassed it.
Nice. Thank you, everyone. It was nice to hear like the similarities in some of your stories. And it's cool because I also found out about OT like pretty early on, but I didn't major in it until undergrad. So it's nice to be able to hear everyone's stories about that. So we'll move on to the second question, which is, what are some extracurriculars that you are involved in, inside or outside of the division?
A couple organizations that I'm a part of one is technically in the division, which is the pre-OT club. And we kind of just get together, talk about different OT concepts, bring in guest speakers, and just learn more about it together and get more accustomed with it, since it can be kind of a difficult thing to describe or define. So it helps with that. And then I'm also a part of Troy Camp on campus, which is a mentorship program that works with youth in the surrounding LA area and just guiding them and assisting them in like their academic needs and also personal needs.
Something that I've been involved in, it's kind of like both inside and outside of the division. I'm a member of the GSG, which is Graduate Student Government. And that was I came through that because I was in the Occupational Therapy and Science Council, and I was elected to that position. But it's really neat because you get to meet a bunch of graduate students from a whole lot of different departments who are in different programs. Some of them are only here for a few years, some are here for like 5 or 6. And there's just, they work so hard and they're so passionate about so many different things across the university. And I feel like OT really has a good fit in there because they're concerned about issues of like access and inclusion. Like we did an accessibility tour around the university. But OTSC is definitely something that I recommend getting involved in if you're a bachelor's to master's student who's transitioning into the master's program.
So at USC, I am involved in the Crucial Catholic Center, where I lead Bible studies, and I'm a member of the music ministry team. I am also a USC Latino Alumni Association scholar, and with them I work on the scholar committee. So we just put on different events for the other scholars and help out with things like the mentorship program. And I also worked as an orientation advisor this past summer, helping students, incoming students, find their place at USC and just learn more about what USC had to offer them.
Most of my extracurriculars at USC has also been work-related. Like Sammy, I also was an orientation advisor and then an orientation coordinator and then a resident advisor. And now I'm a first-generation student leader. And then some things in the division in that transition that Sam was talking about, trying to find my bearings in the master's program, I started attending the OTs for Outreach events last semester. And they are about strengthening the community at USC Chan with LGBTQ and allies through professional and social engagement. So that's been really lovely as well and helped me find my group here in the master's.
For me, like the only organization that I'm significantly active in right now is my Asian interest sorority, Delta Phi Kappa. And that's where I get a good amount of socialization, like cultural connection, philanthropy work, held a cabinet position to try and hone in on some leadership skills. And obviously with the pandemic kind of limiting our campus involvement right now, I've been focusing more on work, more so than clubs. So this school year, I've been working 2 jobs at USC. Since my freshman year, I've been working at facilities management services in the computer aided drawings department. And that's where we pretty much keep track of building updates at basically any building that USC owns or leases across Southern California. And that kind of taught me something that I wouldn't have otherwise learned because that's very far off from our major, obviously. And it was really such a blessing because it did give me that opportunity to explore something else other than healthcare and OT, which is what I had been focusing on ever since I was really young and in high school. I only volunteered at hospitals, looked at clinical field work. And so that was something that really, I guess, expanded my field of knowledge in a way. And my second job is within the division. Right now, I'm interning with Dr. Sean Roll at his musculoskeletal sonography lab. And so that kind of gives me that OT balance in my work life. And that's been a really insightful experience too, since I've never done research before. And that was something that definitely took me out of my comfort zone, but it gave me some early exposure to a practice of OT that isn't clinical practice.
Yeah, I would say my involvements also kind of revolve around my job. So I work at the Young Scientist Program, which is a subset of USC's Joint Educational Project. And what I do is I go to local LAUSD public schools and I teach science lessons to the elementary schoolers. So it's really fun. It's a job that I get paid for. That's, again, just really fun way to work with kids, do something that's not OT related, but at the same time, I'm learning so many skills that like I can translate into when I become an OT.
So I would say in undergrad, I definitely like spanned out more in my extracurriculars. And so I was really involved in the USC Dragon Boat team, which is a club sports at USC. And then I was also involved in speakers committee. So it's under the USG, the Undergraduate Student Government Programming Branch. And we invite like famous people to basically to come to campus, and we have conversations, Q&As with them. So we've had people like Ali Wong and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jamila Jamil or Bill Nye. And I've also done a little bit of research in undergrad. And then going on into grad school, I feel like my extracurriculars focus more towards OT. So I continued research. And then this past year, I've been a TA for the OS minor program. So in some of the classes like creativity workshop or occupations of emerging adulthood. And I've also been OTSC with Sam as the fundraising chair.
So my involvement's outside of the division. I'm involved in my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. During my undergraduate career, I was operations manager at USC Recreational Sports. So worked the front desk at the Lions Center and the Village Gym. And through that experience, I became a certified personal trainer. I'm also a barber as well. And recently I've been getting involved with trading options in the stock market. And yeah, most of it now it's because of COVID. A lot of it's money related, work related, just so, we can secure some bread during this pandemic.
Well, thank you everyone for sharing. It's really nice to hear that all of you had the chance to try extracurriculars or just things in general, like work related outside of OT, or you kind of found that balance. Because OT is great, but it's also nice to try new things, But yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And so we will now move on to the third question, which is, how are your experiences in an accelerated program like the BS to MA program different from undergraduate students who aren't in one?
So I guess I can start with this one. I actually talked to my roommates about this because I'm kind of in that transition right now where this past semester was my first semester kind of in like the graduate part of our program. And so the rest of my roommates are all just seniors in their normal undergrad programs. And so they were saying they just always noticed how like, I guess, certain I was in our program, which is really nice because we get like the luxury of being guaranteed like not only our bachelor's, but our master's degree. So throughout undergrad, I knew I was going to do OT. So I was able to do all this other stuff. Like I picked up a minor in neuroscience. I was able to get my job. And my roommates, on the other hand, like, well, they also enjoyed their experience. They were trying more to find things that helped fit what they wanted to do next in life. So like one of my roommates is like pre-law. So she was trying to like take these law classes and, find internships that would lead to that. And what's really nice about us already being in this program is we kind of are guaranteed to already get all of that occupational therapy stuff in the future. So we can use our undergrad to kind of branch out and do things we wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to do, which I thought was really nice. And then the only other difference, I guess, is kind of just like the timing of your classes. Like, I feel like with the bachelor semesters, our program starts pretty like slow and easy. You don't have that many required classes in your first few semesters. So you're kind of taking more GEs, any electives you want, or if you want to pick up a minor. And then once you get to like junior, senior year, that's when all the classes start coming and you're program kind of gets harder, whereas my friends, on the other hand, like a lot of them had a lot of really hard like science intro classes, like intro to bio and OChem. And now that they're juniors and seniors, they're kind of doing like the electives for their majors and finishing everything up. So it doesn't make a huge difference, but it's kind of just like you're kind of in different places in your schoolwork, I would say, with your equivalent like classmates.
I agree with Anna. So a lot of my friends are in the arts. So my best friend is a music major. My other best friend is an actor. So we would always clash about like, they would tell me like everything you have is guaranteed. Well, I'm like busting my butt to try to get every opportunity in front of me. So that was one thing I've always like taken in me with my mind throughout my undergraduate experience. On the other hand though, my senior year, so we were already on the health science campus. So socially it was very different. Like there was no more, hey, let's meet at EVK at lunch. Let's go to Kava for breakfast or something like that, because I was already on HSC's campus. And you know, all the relationships that you develop in undergrad, I feel like it's just tougher to maintain them just because you're not on the main campus as much like throughout the week because you're always at HSC. So yeah, I definitely think that was one of some of the things I wasn't prepared for in terms of, you know, me being in an accelerated program while my peers were not.
I want to echo off of what Anna and Justin have said. So I think, it's easier for the coursework at the beginning. A lot of the courses, the sequences are laid out for you and they're planned for you and they're at guaranteed times. And and there's always a guaranteed spot for you. So you never really have to worry about that. And I think with that allows a lot of flexibility. So there's really not that much required coursework in the first two and a half years of the program. And like I got to study abroad and I got to take a bunch of other classes like ballet and harp class and like a personal financial accounting class. So there's a lot of room to explore, but also socially, I would say it is a little bit difficult in the fourth year when you're transitioning and you're trying to balance that undergrad life and also this grad life, because you have a lot of demands from grad school. And you also want to make friends. So it's hard because I'm going to be honest here, but like most of the grad students will spend the whole summer together. They'll spend 8 weeks learning kinesiology and neuroscience, and you have already taken it your junior year. So you kind of come in at the fall in your cohort of like your fellow bachelor's semester students, and that can sometimes be a hard adjustment, just to trying to like make friends with people who have already formed like really well, like really close groups.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback off of what Anna said earlier. I actually am a twin, and my sister is pursuing a career in neuroscience, and so I kind of see her versus like what I'm doing, and she's like, you're so lucky. You have your whole life planned out on a piece of paper for your course plan, and you're already set to go to your master's program. And she's like, I'm over here just trying to fluff my resume and try to get all of these things in, whereas we can kind of pursue different passions that we have. So like I'm taking a minor in Chinese, which is nowhere near related to OT, but it's something that I really wanted to do. Or like just getting jobs and stuff. They don't always have to be OT related, which is something that I appreciate. And I think something else that's pretty awesome about our program is that we get really close with our faculty and like our professors. And even just the entire community is really tight knit. So I'm able to get really close with my classmates as well. And I think that that's something that I really appreciate, just because even before I got to USC, I had already gotten to know the girls in my cohort. There's only 9 of us, so it was pretty easy to find each other all like on Instagram and stuff, but that was kind of nice. And just in my own like extracurriculars and stuff, I was planning a program where it was about wellness. And so I thought maybe I can talk to one of my old OT professors and see if they can stop by this event. And when I was talking about this in our meeting, they were like, well, you can just like reach out to your professors, like even though you haven't had them in a year. That's so crazy. And I reached out to like 3 of them and they all showed up and were super helpful. So I think that the faculty and just overall tight-knit community of the program is really awesome.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what a lot of people have said already, like just having to account for additional years of schooling right when you enter college is definitely a really unique experience. And it's a really great sense of security that like we're all probably super grateful for, but at the same time, class scheduling sometimes seems a bit tight in regards to like planning things. Like definitely, I know my friends have studied abroad or like they've taken gap semesters, but like if you are like an OT major, probably past like your sophomore year, it becomes a bit harder to do that like on a whim. It definitely takes like planning because I'm pretty sure like Amber probably does all of our academic planning. And she's, I think like right when I entered freshman year, like she already started asking like me and my classmates, like, do you guys plan on studying abroad? And I was like, I don't even know what classes I'm taking yet, but I totally understand why you need to ask, because it's so hard to find our specific courses outside of USC. Like it's super easy to find like probably a neuroscience class, like a calculus class, like at some other university or like community college, but like you can't find like, I don't know, OT 405 at like some other college, you know? So that definitely adds a little bit of a constraint, but it definitely makes the program super special because it's only at USC. And I think like as I'm inching closer and closer to my senior year, something that I've also been thinking about is like the idea of senioritis, like a little, like the amount of time that we spent in online school has definitely reminded myself that senior year really isn't the end of my schooling. And a lot of my friends are talking about like, oh my God, I already have senioritis in junior year. And I'm like, I literally cannot let that happen to me, because we graduate from the bachelor's program. And then right after senior year, we have clinical internships right before senior year. And then senior year to master's year, that's like, oh wait, no, not junior year. After senior year, we have like clinical internships, and then it's the master's program right after that, more clinical internships. And especially for people like myself who are planning to pursue that additional doctorate degree, it like is a constant, I guess, marathon of OT. So it's definitely a very different experience from other people in different majors who can feel like they can relax a bit towards the end of their undergraduate years. And I think someone mentioned this too, but I think Sammy mentioned this, but definitely OT feels super special right when you enter as a freshman, when you notice that you know the names of every single person in your cohort, because compared to people who are majoring in like Roski or Marshall or Dornsife, like my class is only 13 people. So it definitely feels super interesting when you can have a group chat of everyone that's in your major of your year class. So that makes it super fun, and like it makes it feel very intimate because you get to like know everyone who you're going to class with, and especially with the faculty as well, like you can stay really close with them, always staying in touch. So I think that's an added bonus to the OT program.
Nice. Thank you everyone for sharing. But we'll move on to the fourth question now, which is, what's been your favorite experience as a bachelor's to master's student?
Right off the bat, I really want to advertise our academic advisor, Amber Bennett, because she puts on some phenomenal events for us during undergrad. We've gone hiking and bowling and roller skating, and we've had tacos and s'mores at her apartment. And she puts these on each semester, and all the BSMA students are invited. And so you go and hang out, and it's all paid for, which is lovely. And so that has always just been one of my favorite things about that experience.
And to kind of go off what everyone's been saying about community and about the events that Dr. Bennett hosts, I think that's been the best part of this program for me. It's been such an honor to watch people grow from being 17 or 18 years old and knowing they wanted to do OT, and knowing that so certainly that they locked into it at such a young age, and just watching everyone like grow and develop into, from undergrad to OT students to future OTs, and as they try to find where they want to specialize in and what they want to do. It's just been such a joy, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to know the 12 other people in my cohort so well, and I know that I wouldn't have been able to do that necessarily in another program.
Yeah, I feel like the whole concept of, the program being so small so you get to form connections is just really important, especially for people who are not necessarily the most outgoing people, or maybe a little bit more introverted. I feel like it's very nice to have such a small major. You get to know everybody in your cohort, and over time you get closer and closer to those people, and you have friends, but you also have a study group, and it works perfectly. And it's just nice to, like you said, be able to grow together and pursue your dreams together and be on that path at the same time.
I would say that my favorite experience was attending classes at the health science campus. I don't know if it's because I've been stuck in my house for over a year now, but I think at times it would feel a little bit stressful if you like had an exam or were running late to like get on the shuttle. But I personally really enjoy car rides. So like being on the shuttle, you know, looking out at the city, listening to music was already always like a pretty peaceful experience for me. Even though the shuttle rides don't take very long, they were significantly different from like walking or skateboarding from class to class on the main campus. It basically like forced me to take a break during my regular school day, which might seem a bit hard when you're like in the middle of like all the hustle and bustle at the main campus. So I think that's like a really good, I guess, like mental break perk of OT having to go to the other campus.
I want to second that. The tram is so fun. And people will disagree with us on that, but I also think it's a great experience.
Back in the days, before like anatomy, I would always get fruit from the fruit person, the lady who would cut fruit. She would always.
Her name's Vicky. I love her.
And I love Vicky now. But my truly favorite experience throughout this program was the white coat ceremony, like in our senior year. I just felt like it didn't really hit me till I got there. I just remember I just woke up from a nap. I'm like, oh, I got to go to the white coat ceremony. But once I got there, lived up the whole experience, and I became extra grateful, you know, for my position and my situation, that, you know, I was getting to experience this as a senior in college, and, you know, a white coat ceremony, and that's humongous. So that was truly my favorite experience.
I'm gonna say a couple. So I really like the junior year. I just call it the craft class, but that's probably not what it's titled, but I think it's creativity and craft analysis. But at least prior to COVID, we would gather in the attic of it's not the OT house technically, but the greenhouse on Hoover. And we just go in the attic and we craft, and it's basically your cohort of however many people are in your BSMA class. And I think that was really nice because it just gave us, again, another break in the day to get creative and like to talk to each other. And I feel like that's when we actually got to know the people closer in our year. So I really like that. And I also really like the anatomy class. I love like all that stuff. So I found it really awesome that we got to work with cadavers and see them and kind of manipulate them. And that was definitely an experience I think a lot of other undergrads didn't get.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of that and say that anatomy was probably one of my favorite experiences. Like Jessie said, most people don't get to use a cadaver at our age. So I know I have a friend who is in med school right now, and last year when I was taking it, I would talk to him, and every time I'd come back from class, he'd be like, okay, run me through what you did today because I haven't touched a cadaver yet and I just want to know. And I think kind of like Leiyanne was saying earlier, the tram is a lot of fun. Going on the shuttle, just being with like your friends on there, just eating your lunch and things like that is an experience. And I think my cohort, we actually got our class cut short because that's when COVID hit. And so I think that also helped us grow closer once we got onto like the online half of the school, just because there were times where we had absolutely no clue what we were doing. So we just text each other and we'd have like our study groups and stuff. And so I think that was a pretty cool experience.
Nice. Thank you everyone for sharing. It's nice to hear because like this is like the one thing I found to be really unique in each year of the BSMAs is how small the classes are. Small in like a good way. It's like very intimate. So it's nice to hear that there's always that community, especially on the tram. But yeah, so we'll move on to the fifth and final question, which is, what advice do you all have for high school students who are interested in OT?
I guess for me, I have like different types of advice depending on like what phase you're in of being interested, if that makes sense. So if you like just discovered OT, I feel like my best piece of advice is to do as much research as possible and try and like learn about all the different areas, like look into pediatrics, mental health, adult rehab, because I feel like I found OT in a very specific way through hippotherapy. So like just being in this program, like I've learned so much more than I ever could have expected. And like I love it all. It's really interesting, but I almost wish I had like looked into it earlier so I knew kind of more of what I was walking into. But then if like you're a high school student who's like set on OT, like applying to these types of programs, I would say kind of like in the opposite way, my piece of advice would be to start pursuing everything else you love besides OT, because this is like your time to do that. Because once you get into OT school, it's kind of like all consuming in the sense that like And like for us, once you get to the grad portion of the program, like you're no longer taking any other classes other than your OT classes. And like, you know, it's all really set up in kind of a strict schedule. So just making sure that you take the time now that you have the freedom to like look into all your passions and like connect them to OT if you want, or just like keep it as a separate interest, I think is really beneficial.
Yeah, I really agree with what Anna was saying. I think kind of hearing all of our experiences and just everybody that I've talked to that knows what OT is, you don't just kind of stumble upon it. Like you're doing research, you're deep into it, or like you experience somebody or like you know somebody who's experienced occupational therapy. So I feel like when you're getting into it, when you find out about it, just continuing to do that research, or if you know somebody who's gone through it, talking to them. I know I actually talked to somebody who's in the bachelor to master's program before I applied to USC. So just if you can in some way, shape, or form, like even if it's just like watching a YouTube video, just to kind of learn more about it, because it's not just some major you just randomly click and say, you know what, I'll figure it out as I go. I mean, you very much can, but it's not like business or something where you're like, I'll figure it out. So just kind of knowing what you're getting yourself into, especially if you're applying to an accelerated program, is something I would recommend. But yeah, also just kind of piggybacking off of what Anna was saying once again, just kind of also pursuing your passions, especially if you get into a program like this one, you have that space too, and you have the opportunity to do things when you're in the bachelor's portion that aren't OT related. So just continue to do those.
Yeah, I would say my advice is I do have to add this one thing too. The OT program at USC is one of the best in the country. So if you're interested in it early on, then you should definitely apply to be in the accelerated program. And as someone who didn't know much about OT when I was applying, I definitely felt a little bit nervous coming to USC. But the classes that I've taken so far have taught me a lot about what makes OT such a unique and fulfilling healthcare career. And I would say even if you are dead set on trying to major in OT or pursue it as a career, I still strongly suggest like volunteering at a hospital or any healthcare facility to see different professions like nurses, surgeons, physicians, and PTs, just to kind of compare and make sure it's something that you're sure you're going to stick with in the long run. Obviously not right now when we're in the middle of a pandemic, but when it's safer, like, you know, try and use up all those resources, because I know that once you like get accepted to the OT program, it's not like the same process as like trying to switch between majors within the other schools at USC. Like it's a huge transition to try to leave the OT program, because all of the major required classes that you take at the division, they're like not transferable to like any other major per se, because they're all like OT 101, OT like 250, like those can't be applied to a different major at USC compared to other ones where like they can kind of mesh within one another. So like just making sure that it's really something that you're down to do for 5 years, like that's also something that you gotta like take into account, make sure you can stick with it for that long. So yeah.
I would say if you're interested in OT, to like understand the spirit of it, like not just how it looks like in a pediatric setting, because I feel like I definitely had a very one-sided view of it going into the program and applying. But I feel like if you can show that you have a really thorough understanding in all these different realms, like in geriatrics, in mental health, in all these areas that you usually aren't exposed to until you get into the program, if you can show that maturity and show that, I think that's really great, and USC will really want you. And you have to keep in mind that they're reserving a spot for you 5 years later or 4 years later in the master's program. So they're not just going to give it to anybody. They're going to give it to someone who really understands what OT is and shows that they want it and shows that they can really contribute to like an amazing profession. So just keep that in mind when you're applying. But also don't get too hung up on like your statistics and your scores, because I feel like OT is really holistic as a profession. And so they're not going to just zone in on your stats and all your grades and your merits. They want to see the other things that you're doing as well.
I just wanted to add on what Anna said about researching and knowing just as much as you can about OT and the different areas you can work in. But one thing I wanted to add into that is don't feel like you have to work in those settings. You can create things for yourself. You know, just the description of OT, there's a lot of creativity with it. So if you have your own ideas, don't be afraid to look to pursue it and maybe create your own path for yourself. And this can be done with maybe, you know, pursuing your own interests throughout undergrad and college, and it can help you brainstorm ideas to, you know, create this own path for yourself. So yeah, that's my advice.
I just really want to echo what Jessie and Justin have said. I think those are really great points, understanding the spirit of OT and then kind of using that understanding to find really creative outlets for OT. I think OT is at its most creative when it's in some of those settings where it's not as common and you really see practitioners that just understand the discipline so well, the profession, that they are able to take it into these really, really neat settings. For instance, I did a lot of work in residential education and housing. And I think there is a huge need for OT there because you're talking about people are moving out of their homes for the first time, making these communities, having to live independently. And I think that could be a potential practice area maybe for OTs in the future. So it's just keep an open mind and really understand like the foundations of OT would be my advice.
My advice would be to not be too afraid of stepping outside of your comfort zone and stepping out of the box. I know that, growing up, I never knew what OT was until I started finding out about it. So don't be scared to be the only one in your friend group doing occupational therapy. Don't feel embarrassed every time you have to explain what it is. It's actually a blessing in disguise that you're kind of the only one in your area doing this, because you get to educate people on what it is and be passionate in something in a field that may not be as common where you are. So just taking pride in that. And then also, like we've all talked about, adding that creative element is also great because you get to put your own twist on what occupational therapy already is right now, and you can further shape it to what it can be in the future with whatever talents and gifts that you already have.
Also, something I wanted to add that's a little bit more technical in regards to the program, because I didn't exactly know what OT required going into freshman year, but I think something to really keep in mind right now if anyone is trying to apply for the program. I know that the mandate is coming up soon for the 2027 doctorate, you have to have a doctoral degree to sit for the board exam. So I think that's something to also keep in mind, that because OT is still a relatively young profession, so it's really important that you just keep tabs on OT in general, because things be changing, things just be adding on. So I think if I had done a little bit more research on that part of OT, just the things that are required in order to become an OT, not just to be in the program itself, to actually graduate and be licensed and certified. I think that would be really beneficial before you apply as well.
We've talked a lot about the spirit of OT, and I also think it's really important to talk about the spirit of yourself when you're looking into that profession. Take a look at all of the things you've done and what you find fascinating and what makes you you, and kind of hone in on those and see how those fit with OT and that spirit. Be authentic and genuine about who you are, and then OT will kind of emerge from that process, and you'll just grow into the occupational therapist you hope to be one day.
Awesome. Well, that concludes the questions. Thank you so much all of you for answering them. I really appreciate your time. And I love the VSMAs. I think I found a lot of community and friendship in the VSMAs, being a master's student that came in just for the grad program. And so I really appreciate all of you. And I think it's a really unique thing to be in this program. And I think all of you coming here to have this conversation will be really cool for high school students who are interested in OT to look at. Maybe if they're not interested in OT, they can watch this as some way to get them interested, or even BSMA students that are just starting. It's really nice to see all of you here. But yeah, thank you so much, and we'll end it at that. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I hope that it was helpful and insightful for all of you interested in applying to the Bachelor's to Master's program, or if you're just interested in occupational therapy in general. And I want to thank Justin, Sam, Jessie, Anna, Seth, Leiyanne, Nmachi, and Sammy. Thank you all so much for giving me your time and joining this call. If you're also interested in seeing another Humans of USC Chan video with second year master's students, I'll link that here, somewhere. That basically clears it up for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe and take care.